Hey everyone, it's Dr. Larsen here. I have a very, very important video for you that I've wanted to do for quite a long time actually. I've been making a gigantic mind map in my computer on this. And it has to do with the ACL ligament injury epidemic that we're going through right now. Now, if you're into sports, if you're a parent of a child who has maybe suffered an injury, college athlete, high school athlete, even down into middle school now, professional, you'll know that ACL ligament injuries are just seemingly on the rise. And I want to walk through something that you've probably never seen before. This video is going to challenge you a little bit. It's going to have you have a different perspective on what's actually happening, because I've been testing these kids for years and years, and I can almost predict which kids are more susceptible to injury than other ones. So ACL means Anterior Cruciate Ligament. Now anterior means to the front of the body, and cruciate means cross. Here's a picture of it right here. So this is the back side of the right leg. So here's the femur, here's the lower leg, and here's the fibula, the outside bone that comes in. So you can see the anterior cruciate ligament crosses this way. The PCL, the posterior one, crosses the other way. It's in the inside of the knee. And this is the ligament that's really susceptible. And what it does, so imagine this is our knee here, okay? This is the femur up here, this is the lower leg. And that's forward, this is backwards. So what it does is it stops your leg from moving this way, from shifting forward. That's what that anterior cruciate ligament, the ACL, does. Now, some statistics on this are there's about 200,000 ACL tears per year. So very, very common. About 95,000 surgeries, I think, are done. But here's something interesting. We'll talk about it later. You're 3.7 times more likely to have an ACL tear after a head trauma. So what could your head possibly do with your lower leg? And we'll talk about that later. Now there's two categories of ACL tears. Number one is direct contact. And this one I'm not talking about so much on this video because it's kind of two things, right? One is the choice of sport that you do. So if you're a running back and you've got guys, like in football, and you've got guys that are coming to hit you in the legs, you're more likely to suffer an ACL tear than a chess player, right? So it's your choice of injury, or a choice of sport. The other aspect of trying to minimize direct contact ACL tears is strength training. So just making sure that your tissues and your muscles and your ligaments are as strong as they can possibly be. But only 30% of injuries are direct contact. 70% roughly are non-contact. This is where our focus has to be. And when I tell this stat to most people, they're stunned because they always think, well, it's a player getting hit in the side of the knee. That's not the case. These people are decelerating. They're just landing and they're just pivoting. So think of like a NFL wide receiver. They're running out and they're going to make a pass route that way, right? So they're running out, they have to decelerate or slow down. Now they have to pivot and they have to bolt that way. That's what's happening here, here, and here. Or somebody jumps up and they land. Same thing. Non-contact injury. No one hit them. 60% of non-contact injuries occur during landing from a jump. Now what's in common here? What's in common with all three of these things? There's something in common. And it has to do with eccentric muscle contraction and reactive muscle control. Now to make it simple before your brain explodes, you can't absorb the force. Your nervous system, your body, your muscles' first job is to absorb the shock, absorb the force that is being imparted on it. So eccentric means, like, if I'm going to do a squat and I'm lowering myself, that's eccentric muscle contraction. I'm slowing things down. Reactive muscle control is, picture like if I'm going to hold a dumbbell. And I'm going to curl that dumbbell up, right? It's a very controlled environment. So I'm just coming along here. But if somebody throws me a dumbbell, a light one or a medicine ball or something, they throw me one and I have to catch it, that reaction, that's reactive muscle control. That has to happen like this. It has to happen instantaneously. Your brain has to communicate that to the muscle like that, to absorb that force, absorb that shock. And that's what's happening here. In non-contact injuries, you can't absorb the force. And that's what all life is about, being more resilient than the forces that are coming in. Now, do we need better training? Is that what we need? Things such as better strength training, posture training, so better, better alignment doing the activities, or just daily walking for that matter. Balance training, agility training, is this where it is? And I think all of these things are important. But we have some of the best training now than we ever have. Yet our injuries are going like this. Okay, we have better strength training. We have better balance, agility, and posture training. All these things, the science is advancing rapidly, and we're learning new things all the time. So my real answer is no. This is not where we need to be looking. It's important, yes, absolutely. But it's not the foundation of what's going on. And this video is about the foundation. You see, it's a natural function of the human body and nervous system to react, to absorb force. Think of a cheetah. Think of a lion. Think of your dog getting excited and running around the house. Right? They are making cuts full speed. Those cheetahs, go watch a wildlife show. Those cheetahs are full speed, just making darts and cuts and jumping and doing all kinds of things. They don't blow out their ACL. So why are humans doing it? Okay, it's a natural function. You don't have to train that. It's built in. It's like vision. You don't have to train your vision. It's a built-in natural function that just happens. Same with hearing or smell or anything else for that matter. So here's the hierarchy that people forget. See, our joints are down here. So if we get a joint injury or a pain or dysfunction or something, it's usually a joint. But muscles control joints. But here's the thing. Muscles don't do anything by themselves. See, we think of like, oh, I have a tight muscle, as if it's the muscle's problem. No. Your brain is telling your muscle to be tight for a reason, because it's trying to protect the joint. So your job should be to figure out what is interfering and causing this nervous system to need to protect the joint. So in the case of our ACL injury or just knee injuries in general, we've got to figure out what is impeding this nervous system from controlling and coordinating the joints and the muscles to absorb force, absorb shock. That's what we have to focus on. You see, your central nervous system is the primary mediator for the perception and execution of musculoskeletal control and movement. Meaning, and yes, I know it's a long sentence, but it just means it's the guy, right? It's the head honcho right here. Your central nervous system, brain, spinal cord. Here's from Gray's Anatomy. The function of the nervous system is to control and coordinate all other organs and structures. Control and coordinate. Nothing else can do that. Your liver can't do that. Your heart can't do that. Your spleen can't do that. Your nervous system does that. And to relate the individual to his environment. You see, you literally live your life through your nervous system. That's what we have to focus on. The stability of a joint is not solely based upon the health of the ligaments, okay? But rather it depends on efficiency and function of the dynamic restraints, which are basically muscles. They're dynamic, meaning they can change. See, ligaments just hold bones to bones. That's all they do. They can't change. But your muscles can change, right? They can move. It's a dynamic restraint. If I jump up and come down, my leg muscles are absorbing the shock first. I don't have to think about that. I don't have to train to do that. They just do that. I'm naturally wired that way. Again, nervous system is primary. Then secondary is muscles. Tertiary, or third, is the joints. Joints meaning connective tissues, ligaments, tendons, meniscus, cartilage. all these things they're just passive. They don't do anything. They're just taking the brunt of everything. So here's our brain. It has an electrical communication with the muscle. It's an electrical system. Now, if this electrical system gets disturbed at some point, now you lose the correct control of the muscle. Now, if it's completely severed, then you can't control the muscle at all, right? But there's various degrees of this. Maybe it dims it a little bit. And what you get then is you get pain, you get injury, and you get dysfunction. So if you go to drlarsen.com, on my blog, you'll see all kinds of videos I've made with patients. And we can literally, if we figure out what is disrupting this and fix the weakness in whatever muscle, shoulder muscle or low back or knee, whatever it is, and then retest, the pain goes away. The pain's there because there's a weakness in the nervous system somewhere. And the brain can't control the muscle, which doesn't control the joint then. But you get pain, you get potential injury, and you always have dysfunction, whether you can feel it or not. That's the result of this right here. So let's dive a little bit deeper here. You need to understand this so that you can make good decisions going forward. So neural proprioception is the actual term for this. And what all it means is that you have nerve sensors in muscles, tendons, joints that respond to a stimulation. See, about per square inch of skin, you have about 20,000 nerve receptors. Some are skin receptors, some sense tension, some sense torque, compression, heat, light touch, deep touch, temperature, right? They're responding to something, and that information is getting put back up into the brain. These cell phones, right? Amazing. We think that these things are completely mind-bending and amazing, which they are. Think about your brain. Think about what your nervous system does every single day. I don't have to think about moving my arm. I don't have to think about breathing or jumping up and coming down and landing safely. It does it all on its own every second of the day. So here's some of the cells. Muscle spindle cell, Golgi tendon organ. These are in the tendons. These are in the belly of the muscle. They're sensing different things and providing feedback back to the brain. Now, when a muscle is overloaded, okay, whatever it might be, maybe I'm curling too much of a dumbbell, right? Or I take a shot in a football game and my muscles are overloaded. Beyond its ability to sustain the load, one of two things can happen. The first one is the muscle fibers tear. Now, this is what your brain doesn't want to have happen. This is the option out of the two that it doesn't want. It either happens too quick or it's just too big of a load and your brain can't keep up with that. So the muscle fibers tear, tendons tear, ligaments tear. Okay, that's option number one. The option that your brain prefers, again, when a muscle is overloaded beyond a certain capacity, is the nervous system deactivates the muscle. We call it proprioceptively deactivating, but it just deactivates it. Not completely, but just to a certain degree. It puts a dimmer switch on it. And we can easily test this with functional muscle testing. I do it every single day in my office. You can just see, oh, I can't hold that anymore. My pec doesn't hold. Or just go look at the videos on my website. You'll see it. Right? But the nervous system deactivates the muscle. It's trying to protect it. It's like a circuit breaker. Remember I said you're an electrical system? A circuit breaker. If you plug too many things into an outlet, let's say I have my laptop here plugged into the outlet, and for some reason it's in the bathroom, and I plug in the hairdryer or something, and I drop that in water. Well, I don't want my laptop to get all burned out, or the hairdryer for that matter. Not that I use the hairdryer, but circuit breaker. So the circuit breaker trips, right? We have these built into our house. Well, the same thing occurs in your body at a much, much more sophisticated level. You trip the circuit. I'm overloading my biceps, my brain trips the circuit, and it loses the power so my muscle doesn't tear. The problem is it doesn't always go back. So when this occurs, other tissues take up the workload of the aberrant muscle. So you've deactivated one, now it's aberrant, it's not working right. It's called a compensation, an adaptation. A living thing can adapt. A living thing can compensate. If a circuit breaker in your house is tripped, the other circuits in the house, right, the other rooms that are still good, they can't like somehow reroute power around this way. It doesn't work that way. But your brain, a living thing, can reroute power. So, other tissues take up the work. Other muscles take up the work of the one that's failing. Again, it's rerouting power. You got to think electrical terms here. Now, if the adaptation or the compensation strategy is successful, so if the brain did a good job, the symptoms disappear, creating a sense of healing. This can be a problem because you didn't really fix the problem, but the symptoms are gone, therefore you think, oh, I'm good. And I always tell my patients, the worst thing you can do is judge your health by how you feel. I mean, we know that cancer is in the body 7, 10, 15 years before someone even feels it at all. You ask them 10 years prior, are you feeling good? Yeah, I feel fantastic. You know, I'm working out, I'm doing all these great things. Yet they have cancer, or the beginnings of it. So how you feel isn't necessarily what's actually happening inside of you. The problem is the imbalance that predisposed the injury and was caused by the injury is still in place. Okay? It's still there. That imbalance is still there. Once a muscle has become deactivated, that big word again here, neuroproprioceptively deactivated, so your brain using those sensors says, oh, it's sensing though, I don't want to tear my muscle, I don't want to tear my tendon, tear a ligament, it deactivates it. It loses its ability to support the load. And I can see this when I functional muscle test people in my office, that if you isolate a certain muscle division that has been deactivated at some point, they can't hold that. But if you turn the arm just a little bit, or you turn the leg, or whatever it might be that I'm testing, just a little bit, all of a sudden it's strong. But if you really isolate those fibers, the body can't hold that anymore because it's compensated for it. If the muscle is unable to respond to an applied load, connective tissues are the next line of defense. Okay? Your muscles are designed to absorb force. Think of a car here now. Cars have shock absorbers in them. We don't think about them too much anymore. Back, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, shocks would wear out all the time. I remember changing shocks when I was in high school and middle school, and I worked on cars a lot. So we were always changing our shock absorbers because they'd wear out. Now the technology's better. But can you imagine not having a car with shock absorbers in it? Right? Think muscle here, absorbing the force. So what happens? All the force from the potholes and the various things in the road are transmitted straight to your suspension system, straight to your steering system, straight to you sitting in the car. It just jolts the car like crazy. Same thing happens here. When your shock absorbers, your muscles aren't responding like this all the time, connective tissues now have to take that brunt. That force gets transmitted right through, nails that joint. And oftentimes it nails the knee. Cartilage in the knee or in the lower back. With successful adaptation, there is always a price to pay. Okay? Adaptation is a good thing, but there's always a price to pay due to reduced biomechanical efficiency, right? Just movement, how your body moves, the efficiency of that. This predisposes the adapted area to future injury because it's not being efficient. Even if you have no pain there. Let's think about the knee. Even if there's no pain, but you have these things that have occurred over time, now you're predisposed. And again, it's a double-edged sword because it's really great that we're able as humans, as living things, to adapt and the pain goes away and we think it's gone. But the other edge of the sword is we never fix the problem. See, your body is designed to seek stability and to seek survival first, not maximal function. If it has the resources to do that, it'll strive for that. But you're designed to survive and you're designed to keep stable. Those are the two things that you have to remember the human body is designed for. So it's a double-edged sword. So once you're out of the pain, now you stop looking for answers. You think, oh, I'm good now, right? You're judging your health by how you feel. Bad idea. So here's an example. We talked about the head traumas earlier, okay? It's noted published research, 370% increase in ACL tears after a head trauma. Now, in today's time, we're very aware of head traumas. Back in the day, it was I had my bell rung, I saw stars, whatever. Now it's concussion everything, which is very, very good. And there's different grades of all of this too, right? But let's just take a head trauma of some kind. It could be a car accident, it could be plowing into someone and getting hit with a football helmet, right? Head-to-head collision or something like that. And maybe you got hurt. Maybe it hurt your neck for a while, maybe a week, maybe a couple of days, maybe a month, whatever it might be. But the pain went away about 6 months ago, let's say. But here's what happened. That initial injury disrupted your cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebro meaning brain, and spinal fluid. There's a fluid that gets pumped from the brain down the spinal cord and up. I'm a cranial chiropractor. I work on the cranium all the time. The craziest miracles I've ever seen are from opening up these joints. And I didn't bring my skull in here with me, but you can see in some of the videos, there's 22 bones of the skull, they all have to move. And if they get locked up, this cerebrospinal fluid doesn't want to work right. Okay? And you won't necessarily feel it. It's the hydraulic fluid of how the body works. It's amazing, amazing stuff. But here's what happens. The body has to compensate. So neurologically, the brain makes a decision. I'm going to inhibit maybe my lower back muscles, maybe my neck muscles. And again, as a functional muscle tester, I'm able to test lower back muscles, maybe the low back, the abs, the obliques, the neck muscles, and the front, and the back, and the sides, and the rotating muscles. I can test all these. And we find them weak in people, or functionally inhibited. They're not really weak, they're toned down. Think dimmer switch. It's called a rheostat, right? You dim them down because the body is trying to conserve. It's trying not to let you use them full out. Because if you use them full out, they're no longer capable of handling the force because you have this and because you had that, in this case anyways. Okay, so it dims them down. Now, when that happens, the pelvis muscles have to compensate because things don't work in isolation, right, to try to create stability. So now your abs don't work, right, or your low back, let's say, let's just skip the neck and go right down here. Well, now your pelvis muscles have to compensate to try to find that stability. It might be your gluteus maximus, it might be your gluteus medius or gluteus minimus, or some adductor muscles, or the piriformis muscles. Okay? These all have to compensate. Lower legs, or the upper legs have to follow then. They follow the lead. If the pelvis compensates, well, everything else below that has to compensate all the way down to your big toe, even up into your shoulder. Everything is compensating to some degree when there's an injury of some kind. So this leaves the knee joint vulnerable because it's not working the way it was supposed to. It's working from a compensation. Now the compensation is good. Like I said, it creates stability and it lets you keep surviving and keep walking and keep moving forward and finding the berries and scrounging and, hunting and these things, right? But you have a lack of muscle control now. You don't have that speed anymore. So when you jump and you come down, you can't absorb the force correctly. If I'm running and I make a cut out here for a pass, I don't have the same level of muscle control. I'm vulnerable. Other examples from this, head trauma is just one thing. It's all over the map what each person has. You might have an old ankle sprain. Neurologically, your brain has to adapt to that. It has to change things. Anything that disrupts your nervous system, and your nervous system is everywhere, anything that disrupts that has the potential to cause that brain-body interference, brain-muscle interference, brain-organ interference. Ankle sprain is one. Belly button piercing. I know it's a strange one. Controversial, right? Not really. I see it all the time, especially the dancers that come in. So they have low back pain or they have knee pain. Look on my blog. Again, drlarsen.com, check out the blog. There's video on there showing young girls who they were in pain. Knee pain, back pain, whatever it might be. Belly button piercing. Because think about it. Let's say you have a pebble in your shoe. What do? You pull away. Your foot pulls away because it's a noxious stimulus. It's a painful stimulus. Same thing happens here. You're firing nerve receptors. You're always firing them. I'm not going to go into detail why that happens, but it does. Wisdom tooth extraction. You get a lot of nerves in your jaw joint, ligaments that hold your teeth in. I've seen this. There's videos on my blog about this. Big, strong kids that work out, lift weights, back pain. Wisdom tooth extraction, shutting off the hip flexors. Okay? Broken nose. Old broken nose. Not a current one, but something that happened years ago. I've got videos on this. Okay? I have one girl who broke her facial bone on the left side. Like, let's see, right over here. The entire left side of her body. If you functionally muscle tested the left side, every single muscle was weak. Everything was strong on the right side. So what'd she have? She had chronic pain, chronic spine pain. Why? Because this side was working good, and this side wasn't working at all. It had that dimmer switch on it because it was being disturbed by an old trauma. So I have to adjust the facial bones and work on that in a lot of people. Like I said, cranial stuff is huge. Old neck injury. Could be a whiplash, could be a football injury. You're disrupting how the sensors are working. You're disrupting the communication coming into the brain, and therefore the communication going down from the brain to the muscles. And again, all of this can lead to an ACL tear, could lead to a sprained ankle, could lead to lower back pain. The sky's the limit. It just depends on how your body compensated for that. Birth trauma. We talked about head traumas. Birth trauma, forceps, vacuum extraction, being stuck in the canal, and even a C-section. A C-section is a birth trauma because you didn't go through the canal the correct way. I won't go into detail why that is, but it has to do with the cranial plates coming in and then popping open and activating that cerebrospinal fluid. Okay? Birth trauma is huge. Yes, it happened 16 years ago and you just tore your ACL. It doesn't matter. Because you're compensating the whole time. At some point, your body can't compensate anymore, and it presents a weakness, and you make a cut, and you expose the weakness. Okay? Strained hip flexor, same thing as like a neck injury, right? You strain the hip flexor running sprints or doing plyometrics or whatever it might be, and you're getting weird input coming back to the brain. You're getting weird output coming down. Technical term there, right? So it's skewing that information. Lack of sleep, just being fatigued, nervous system fatigued. You're not going to be as sharp, right? That's an easy one to fix. Overtraining, huge. I see it all the time now. We've got some of the local area gyms and sports performance things burning people out. Really, really bad. And it's leading them to injury. But if we just work together, all we have to do is figure out what that person needs, each individual needs, to be able to train at a high level. I overtrained myself when I was in high school. I trained really, really hard. Had I known about a doctor such as myself who can do all this testing, I would have been able to train even harder and not get injured and not have a sprained ankle and not have all these different little nagging things. Because I would have figured out the interference from brain-muscle connection and what I could do to overcome that. Now we get into different things, right? So there's structural, physical things that can disrupt the nervous system, but there's chemical things too. So nutritional deficiencies. Maybe you're deficient in the mineral manganese. I've got videos on my website on this with one of the local fitness trainers here. He does kettlebells. Manganese deficiency short circuits the nervous system, short circuits the pituitary gland, because the pituitary gland needs a lot of manganese, right? Bet you didn't know that. Toxic chemicals. If you don't think you're exposed to toxic chemicals, you've got your head in the sand. Think of all the sports drinks. They're nasty. Look at the color of them. Bright orange, neon green, electric blue, right? Just the color alone has toxic chemicals in them. Yes, it's not going to kill you, right, overnight. But it's dampening how your body works. The artificial flavors, the artificial sweeteners, anything diet related, right? These are all toxic chemicals. The high fructose corn syrups, the mercury, the lead, different things that we're exposed to, chlorine, fluoride, bromine, which is in a lot of breads. It's a flame retardant. That new computer smell, new car smell, that's bromine. Toxic chemicals disrupt your nervous system immensely. Food allergies. I've been talking about this for over a decade. And unfortunately, people are catching up with this because there's so many issues with it. So many people are having trouble with food allergies. I get calls all the time from parents wanting me to functionally test their child, newborn, 2-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever, for food allergies. Because make no mistake about this, this is a nervous system disruption. It's not just, oh, it bothers my GI system. No, it bothers everything. So if your body is reacting to a food as if it's a poison, your immune system's activated, your nervous system's activated. It's mounting an attack, mounting a defense. That's sucking energy from your performance system, right? And you're trying to go out there and play a football game, or you're trying to play a basketball game or soccer or whatever it might be, and now your performance is down. And now you're more prone to injury as well. Now, what you need to do, like I said, reactive muscle control is a natural function of the human body. You do need to figure out some of these new training things. Absolutely. There's some very good evidence that certain training regimens decrease ACL injury tears. Absolutely. But let's start at the foundation. Find the hidden interferences first so that your training has solid ground to it. Like one of my common sayings is, don't shoot a cannon out of a canoe because you have no stability from that, right? Don't get this high performance engine where you're lifting weights and you're working hard and you're getting big and strong and fast, but your foundation is not stable. We need to find these hidden interferences first. And the best way to do that is to get a complete functional muscle testing exam. In this exam, we are testing individual muscles, we're testing movement, but again, we're testing your nervous system. How is your nervous system connecting with that muscle? And again, if we find a problem or an imbalance or a functionally inhibited or what we call weak muscle, it doesn't mean go out and exercise that. You could exercise till you're blue in the face for a year and it won't change that inhibited muscle. It needs to figure out the hidden interference. Because again, your body is designed to do all these things naturally. It's just that we have so many interferences in our environment today. The formaldehyde in this office and the carpet and the volatile organic compounds in the paint, right? There's so many things that we're exposed to. So, say for the lower leg, we want to check quadriceps, hamstrings, hips, lower leg, but that's not good enough. Here is a snapshot from one of my mind maps for ACL tears. You can see here's the quadriceps. Quad means 4, right? But if you actually look at the anatomy, if you look at cadavers, there's actually 12 different quadricep muscles. So we want to be able to functionally test each muscle division to see if it's going to be able to support a load. Because if even one isn't doing its job, it's spilling over into the others and forcing that compensation, forcing that adaptation. And we can easily test this. This will take me 1 minute to test all this in one leg, if that, to figure out which ones are working and which ones aren't. Hamstrings, 6 different divisions. The hips, here's just some of them on my mind map, right? The gluteus maximus, tensor fasciata, gluteus minimus, multiple divisions. gluteus medius, multiple divisions, piriformis, gemellus, obturators. These are all hip muscles that have to be stabilized. Again, there's low back muscles, there's oblique muscles, there's ab muscles, even up in the neck and other places too. It's all important to your entire body functioning. The mantra is don't guess, test. Okay, but now you're exposed to this. Now you understand this. And that's really why I wanted to make the video, because everyone's thinking, well, I need to exercise and do these certain exercises. And that is true, like I said. But again, go back. It's the hidden interferences. It's those things that you don't even know are occurring. Check out my blog, check out the videos, check out the people that I did the videos with and their stories. They're all real. They're all real. Nothing is fake, nothing is made up. These are all real people who had problems, and their problems stemmed from places that they didn't even consider. So if this intrigues you at all, make sure you share this video. I want to get this around so people understand that, you know, there's more that can be done. We can do better. drlarsen.com, you can look at the videos there. There's more information on that site. I really hope you learned something about ACL injuries, ACL tears. Now, one last thing that I'll leave you with is this has to do with prevention, but it also has to do with recovery. Yes, a person gets an ACL tear, they'll probably need a surgery, they'll have to do some physical therapy and things as well, but that doesn't guarantee them fixing the original imbalance to start with. It's not just the injury. There was usually almost always an imbalance before that. So even if you do need the surgery of some kind, whether it be a shoulder surgery, knee surgery, whatever, you've got to go deeper and find that imbalance. Find where the nervous system wasn't communicating to begin with. So it works both ways. As post-operative rehab, figuring all this out, and even more so, what I'm trying to show you is get the exam done ahead of time, like now, so that you can see where the imbalances were. Man, I wish I had this when I was a kid. I never suffered an ACL tear. I had a pretty nasty knee injury. It was a direct contact one. But I had other things going wrong. So again, hope you enjoyed the video. ACL tears are such a devastating thing for so many kids today. And again, look at drlarsen.com. Hope you liked the video. I'll see you again soon.